Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. The Shriek, written by Calamity Comet. Psychic blinds lowered, and the appraiser felt the shield slip away over the edges of his ship. He focused on the blue and green terrestrial hothouse in his scopes, though from its sun, it was a hot one. The appraiser did its breathing exercises and held the world firmly in its mind's eye. He slipped the world's boundaries of the ship and leapt across the astral plane. He felt the black of space on his face. He felt the coolness of the immediate boundary layer through which all psychic energy flowed. His superiors had an interest in this blue marble. He was to probe its psychic defenses. He was to determine whether it could defend itself, and if it could not. The two men in suits parked their car. The walk into the Pentagon was a long one, and it was a hot summer. Jeffrey Bullock was sweating by the time he got inside. An aide handed him a bottled water and let him know his superiors wanted him downstairs as soon as possible. "What's this about, Jeff?" asked Dan. Daniel Tran was a Space Force upper brass, not predisposed to useless questions or idle panic. Bullock shrugged. It's about the Kuiper Belt object. I know that much. Civilian agencies are still classifying it as a comet, as far as I know." The object had made a course correction outside the orbit of Neptune and looked odd, unnatural. In addition to that, ever since it entered the current orbit, certain metrics had become altered. Data flowing into the Pentagon had become unexplainably strange. Bullock worked with metadata, and he desperately hoped there was an explanation for the data his people were getting. The appraiser shook his shaggy head again. "I have detected no evidence of psychic awareness, no evidence of training, no evidence of organized application of basic psychic laws. Species E appears neither aware that the psychic realm exists, nor disciplined in their own mental processes. Of this I am certain." His superior twisted her neck around itself in a sign of agitation. "Species E is turning many of our assumptions upside down. Your report claims in the preamble that they possess a great latent psychic power, and then 2 screens later you tell me what you are telling me now. How can they also have no psychic defenses?" "Latent capability is not the same thing as practical experience," Appraiser said. His 5 hands crossed his lap. "Species E could not do so much as scratch our psychic shields without regimented training, not unless they have literally limitless psychic potential." "Is there a danger of that?" his superior asked nervously, cracking her digits. "Could they have that much power?" The appraiser thought for a moment. It was strange. There was always a chance, but it was so unlikely that it approached impossible. He shook his head. "No. I recommend we continue psychic bombardment. They will crack shortly, and then they will welcome our armies with smiles." The room was straight out of Dr. Strangelove. Beige walls, leather chairs, a map of the world with overlaid strategic options. Bullock looked around. The room was packed. Experts from 24 fields jockeyed for space around the table. Most had to stand. Bullock had gathered 3 things from the introduction. 1. Object KBO-2022 was not natural. Satellite time had confirmed it was a ship. 2. The recent spike in suicides, discontentment, crime, and public complaints that had escalated through July was connected to some kind of signal the object was broadcasting in a way that could not be accurately measured. 3. The lobby snack machine was out of pretzels. Please ask the staff, then they'll get you something as soon as the next shipment comes in. A short man in a blazer cleared his throat. Everyone looked at the man and stood up. "My name is Terry Cantrell. I work with psychics." After the laughter had died down, he stayed standing. "While many of you may find my field amusing, the government does not. And after today, I assure you that you will all change your minds." Terry then went on a blitz of a PowerPoint. MK Ultra, MK Often, the Montauk Project, the Edgewood Arsenal, Pleasant Prairie. It was all real, and Terry had been there. People around the table looked nervously at the politicians in attendance, but they simply nodded along. As scientists sunk deeper into their chairs, a chemist coughed. Are we sure any of this sort of science stuff is legit? Nobody so much as laughed. Terry continued. He went into the effects of psychological bombardment. He went into the child brain reading experiments at Pleasant Prairie. He described a recent spike connected to the Kuiper Belt object as consistent with what they would expect from a psychic attack. And then he reached the end of the slide titled Countermeasures. It was blank. Our experiments during the 70s and 80s were shot down for a reason. We developed a whole lot of theory, but not a lot of practical experience. We can tell you what the astral plane looks like conceptually, but hell if we could actually go there. We can tell you what a psychic warfare would look like, Terry said, gesturing towards the radio image of the KBO spacecraft, but we didn't have the experimental ability to test it. Until now. A woman near the edge of the table pointed at Terry. So all that bad psychic juju we were beaming at the Soviet Union didn't do shit. Now the room laughed. A Russian agent who was attending as a guest crossed his arms and didn't say anything. Terry shook his head. Humans seem tremendously powerful at sending those kinds of signals, but we're no good at receiving them. We need both sides of the coin to develop these conceptual abilities. Those messages we sent the USSR, which were real, by the way, likely contributed zilch to their collapse. He nodded at the Russian agent. No offense. As the meeting adjourned, Terry motioned towards Bullock to follow him. Then, as a group of a few others diverged from the main group in the lobby and went down an elevator, 80 stories down, Terry looked at Bullock. You work with metadata? Bullock nodded stiffly. Good, boy. Do I have some slides for you? Appraiser was going crazy with boredom. 5 standard cycles of psychic bombardment had come and gone. Target species E was exhibiting only the most minor of effects. Rates of crime and suicide creeped up with incredible slowness. The appraiser snorted. He was a professional. This was weapons-grade psychic power. Why was species E barely affected? How could a species with that much latent power be so damn bad at feeding the effects? Unless... The human experts crowded around a table in one of the Pentagon's secret observation rooms. A woman named Marlene was led in. She shook all of their hands, but she seemed like she was in a confused daze. This is Marlene. She works at a social media company, Harry said, gesturing at the others. I'm not allowed to release the details per her lawyer's orders. I think introductions are in order. As they all broke into small talk, Terry directed some lab techs setting up equipment in the other room. Tables, stands, and a lot of expensive-looking equipment that Bullock knew nothing about took shape in the other room. It was all behind a two-way mirror, set currently to function as a simple window. Despite his ignorance as to the details, Bullock gathered what was going on. They were going to try and contact the ship with a psychic response of some kind. Around that time, Terry cleared his throat. We in the government don't have a ton of options right now. We're being contacted by extraterrestrials in a medium we barely understand. Based on the effects of the messages, they appear hostile. He let the words sink in. We have decided to try and send a return message using equipment developed in the 80s. It's not foolproof. Most of our test subjects are long since deceased. Marlene here is a willing volunteer. Marlene swallowed, but detecting the tension in the room, she then smiled and gave a thumbs up. Hi, everybody, she said awkwardly. I'd been told by the government I may possess the appropriate skills, so here I am. Bullock looked at Terry. And those appropriate skills are? I'm glad you asked, Jeff. He opened the door to the other room. Marlene, could you take a seat? I think it is time we begin. Appraiser urgently hailed his superiors. He demanded they raise the psychic shields to maximum power. He told them his theory. He believed that the resistance that they encountered from Species E was another symptom of their obliviousness to the psychic world. Their latent power was not just impressive, it must be off the charts. Due to their poor receptivity, they had to force everything through a psychic realm with incredible power, just to get the smallest of emotional responses from their own kind. Perhaps their own inability to feel psychic energy had developed as an evolutionary response to protect them from their own psychic power. Whatever the reason was, it was bad news. It meant that they knew about the psychic realm and tried to send a message out into space. I want you to take 3 deep breaths, Marlene. 4 seconds in, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. While Terry walked Marlene through the preliminary steps, the technicians explained the machinery to Bullock. This is the psychically enabled brain-to-computer intermediate boundary layer ensemble, the technician told him, as if the words made any sense. Marlene thinks into this. He gestured to the EKG tabs, and the signal goes up and out the Pentagon roof into space from here. He gestured at the machinery. We used these a lot in the 80s, and don't listen to Terry. They absolutely did contribute to the Soviet collapse. Terry sheepishly grinned. Maybe a little, he said, making a gesture with his forefinger and thumb. We used a lot of power in those experiments, but we'll be using only a fraction of that for this test. Bullock felt his stomach knot up. Bullock watched Marlene as she was finishing up the breathing exercises. I still never got an answer. Why have they picked you to send out the first message? Marlene took a final deep breath. I work for Facebook. The lawyer shook her head. I worked for an unspecified social media company. I was a content management analyst. And that means what exactly? Asked Bullock, shaking his head. I browsed the site, checking reported posts and comments to determine if they violated our standards. I saw a lot of crazy stuff. Cartel killings, smut films, all sorts of sexual stuff. The brick video, you name it. I saw it. Worse than you can guess. Terry shook his head. And you were barely compensated. Sad state of affairs. But now we can use those memories for something productive. The aliens are hell-bent on sending us hostile psychic energy. Fine. Let's send a little back. He motioned towards Marlene to begin when ready. The technician escorted Bullock and the others out of the room. Terry poked Bullock. I hope you're writing this down, he said, gesturing at the monitors. Do we think this will have any effect? Bullock asked Terry, as the machinery powered up. No, Terry said bluntly. There is no reason an alien race that's developed psychic warfare wouldn't be able to defend against one that hasn't. It's not like our latent powers are that high, right? This will barely scratch the paint on their mental shields. It's just to let them know that we know what's up. A technician spoke up over the intercom. When you're ready, Marlene, please recall the video or image that caused you distress during your past employment. Visualize it in your mind. On command, I want you to hold it on the top of your head. Take a deep breath and focus it at the EKG tabs on your scalp. Feel it pass into the machinery. Feel it exiting the room. Let it go. At your discretion, please, begin. When the Shriek hit the fleet, the Brazier barely had time to feel the psychic shields collapse under the strain. It was instant. They had diverted power from weapons and engines. They diverted it from non-essential functions. Administrative AI focused everything on the psychic shields. Throngs of psychics demanded with their minds that the shields hold. The Shriek had emanated from a blue-green world that hung in space, that blasted Species E had sent it. Her Brazier had warned of the possibility. His superiors had taken precautions. It wasn't enough. The Shriek roiled through the immediate boundary layer, traversing far faster than light. It practically boiled up through the mentalist shields. It melted minds. Every alien it killed became fuel for it to amplify its own signal. It became mimetic, aware of its own existence. The most dangerous kind of psychic weapon. Alarm spread. The astral plane went black. The energy jabbed violently at his third eye. Appraiser screamed. He held out his arms. He fought it tooth and claw. He opposed it with all of his might. It was not stopped for even a second, as it ate his mind up, too. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barky, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.